How to collapse the right and destroy Christianity. Matthew 5:37-48 But let your communication be, yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee turn not thou away. Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor, and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you, and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. If there is a passage in the Bible that the weak have distorted more than this passage, I am not sure where it is. There is a reason for why the trust is distorted with poor interpretations. The devil cannot destroy the truth, he cannot make a lie that is better or stronger than the truth. The only option the devil has, is to confuse the truth. The devil darkens our minds and corrupts our understanding. We see this most clearly in the way the modern world corrupts the meaning of words. Every significant word is devoid of content. Gay was one of the first words to be destroyed, but the destruction just seemed a part in the evolution of language. But so much was to follow. This might seem nitpicking. What can it matter how we define or redefine words? Well then, what does it matter if we define Christianity as a religion and concerns about migration as a racist opinion held by the far right? Words matter, and in fact if we looked hard at our situation, we would realize words are all we have. God spoke reality into existence using words. Reality is an idea and information, not a thing of substance. Let there be light, is a spoken command to the Creator. God spoke the world into existence through Christ. And it was good, is a confirmation of completion. The act of creation was performed according to divine specifications. All of this was information or an act of intellectual creation. When God formed man, reality was the truth in which man was created and inserted. The closest correlate is when we write a story. We create an environment in which we insert a character. The character must then deal with the environment in which he finds himself. When God created reality, it was good, but it still lacked something. It lacked an audience. That is us. God created in Eden a platform from which man could appreciate God's creation. Man, in his foolishness, wanted his own perspective, the perspective of what things would look like if there was no God. Remember the argument that Satan made is the one given in Genesis 3:4 And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. 5 For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. If we were as gods, we would be in control of the truth. We would be able to make reality as we desired it to be. One cannot be God and not be in control of reality. This in turn means we define good and evil. If this is so, then what God says is not good, can become a good in our eyes. What God says is wrong, we might find right, when justified by our feelings. However, this essay is written from the perspective of the devil. Satan cannot make his lies more powerful than the truth of God. This is a huge problem for him and those who follow him. God made the world one way, and he made us to work in ways that align with it. We can think of this fixed pattern as being truth or logic or reason. Some might call the fixed way things make sense, as common sense. Regardless, some things just make sense configured one way, and other things and other configurations just sound impossible or wrong. The task of the devil is to make insanity look desirable. He has been doing this since Eden. If we knew that the reality of God was sane and stable and every modification to it was doomed to instability and eventual failure, we would flee from the devil, and he would have had no leverage. He can only do what he does by getting us thinking that we can change things and make them better for us, if not for anyone else. The first step in this process is to create a reality that is similar to putty. In the eyes of the world, reality is malleable clay. It can be made into anything we want it to be. Once we think reality has substance and is open to modification, then the entire dynamic changes. So long as we understood reality as a logical creation conceptualized by God, it is pretty clear humans cannot edit it. Information is only intelligible in the form it was given. A universe made of individual building blocks or atoms seem capable of infinite variation and modification. But if we believe the universe is composed of matter, energy, space and time, then there is no reason why we ought not rearrange things as we see fit. But as obvious and as conventional as this thinking is, it covers a big lie. The lie is that the earth is there for our convenience and our benefit. It was not created for this. However, once we assume that physical reality is physical, it appears to lose context. It is just there floating in time and space. This is what the devil wanted. He needed to begin with an earth that was owned by everyone and no one. In this incongruity of the socialist paradigm is the roots of the right's decline. The corruption of the idea of creation did not happen accidentally or without any motive or underlying purpose. If the earth is an unowned and often unoccupied property, then ownership is established by the methods of Satan. This is the law of the jungle. This is the evil that has plagued earth since the beginning. This law is the dual doctrine of power. These doctrines express the law of the jungle. On these two laws all the laws of the state rest. The two doctrines state, might makes right, and the end justifies the means. In other words, ownership is predicated on power disparities. The greater the disparity, the greater the wealth gap. But what is more, the ability to make law requires this same power disparity. A dynamic is at play here. Given a slight disparity in power, a disparity in levels of ownership is created. The disparity in ownership provides for a disparity in power. Power and ownership go hand in hand. Merit cannot be given, it must be earned. However, we cannot gain merit by giving power to Satan. This is a problem for man, because it is easy to earn merit in the eyes of Satan. But if we cannot earn merit by supporting Satan, we cannot earn merit by working for those who are in league with Satan. We cannot get merit through power or ownership nor through assisting others to acquire it. In other words, merit is gained by war, by good combating evil, not by adding to it. To destroy the right is not hard, but it still takes work. If the right is built as a meritocracy and we cannot have a meritocracy by strengthening Satan, the simple thing to do is to make it impossible to build the church, at least in a meaningful way. All it takes to do this is to stunt the growth of humans, in the spiritual sense. We only need to make it more comfortable to remain a juvenile than to take the step into maturity. This step is what is meant by a leap of faith. If we are frightened of growing up, all is lost. This fear of maturity, and all of its implications, is the fight we have against principalities and powers. We are fighting the forces of immaturity that makes us consumers more than builder. Consumption must be curtailed in order to build civilization. Civilization is not specifically the church, but it still correlates well. We will find the civilized nation is more influenced by Christianity and its values than the atheist and secularist nation is. A country can be tacitly atheist and still express the Christian values that first impelled its growth. It only has to have a large percentage of its population who are spiritually mature, relatively speaking. But there are two forces at work here. The one is the force of spiritual maturity. This is the force that gives rise to economic development. The spiritually mature specialize and are able to trust one another. Spiritual maturity manifests itself in development. The spiritually mature work together and can cooperate in large and lengthy projects. They add value to the things of God. So, the nation and the people improve. But there is much resentment in the hearts of many, having to work. Many people find ways of avoiding work. They may do this in ways that serve God, but tangentially. They do not really want to do good, but in doing evil they see a kingdom. Many of these are capitalists and politicians. They seem to do good, and they may even seem necessary, if it is a necessary evil, but it is them who make themselves necessary. They create their own demand. The state is set up as the ruler. They did this, at least originally, by their own hand. Now they have established themselves, they permit us to pick which group we will accept as our rulers. But we have no choice about if we wish to be ruled or not. This might appear obvious and incidental to the topic being discussed, but it is quite central. The state and capital, as well as many others, are parasites. They do not present themselves as parasites, but they are parasites. It is not that they are elites that make them parasites, it is that we could do without them. Anyone the economy can do without, is a parasite. The economy of the spiritually immature needs pseudo-adults, these are the elites. They are mature in power but not in the things of the spirit. They know how to rule as bullies and tyrants, but they do not know how to do anything useful. Because this is true, they are parasites and need to gain substance from the productive sectors. The problem for the fallen world is that it does not have the means to determine merit. Therefore, there is much that is thought to have merit, which has none. Merit is not relative. But all value expressed in terms of a human institution only gives us merit in terms of a thing without any established value. This is like measuring a length without having a starting point. That is the secret of the left, they destroy truth. They destroy our ability to obtain accurate information. And so they can rob us and exploit the most vulnerable. It's an inverse relationship. If the organization gains a lot of the spiritually immature, it will lose its ability to measure merit. If there is a sizable number of spiritual mature persons, the character of the organization will change, and it will become a meritocratic organization, because when people are spiritually mature, they get paid for what they do and they pay others for what they do. The entire point of maturity is seeing the value others have in an honest way, and not trying to exploit anyone out of what is rightfully theirs. What is needed is a scalable metric or point of departure on which to make objective comparisons, or measuring unit that has been standardized. Without this we have no way to tell if we are doing more good than harm. Without a standardized unit, we do not know if value is being created, or destroyed. This index which gives us the means to validate the value of what we do, cannot be the world itself. The world contains the giver and the taker but nothing to determine the value of what each person does. The measuring tool cannot be a business enterprise. The things that benefit a business only benefit the business owner. A business can do really well without necessarily improving the wealth of the world. Adding value to the government only deprives the productive sector of needed capital. The only possible solution to this problem of quantification is the church, not the church of the spiritually immature but the church of the spiritually mature. The church is not an organization designed to feed milk to the spiritually weak. It is a church created to add value to the things of God. To determine if value is being added to the church, not necessarily the world, the church stands in for God, as representing power of attorney. This means the church is the owner of record for all assets belonging to God. The church represents the claim of God to all of the commercial assets on earth. The spiritually mature work for the church and are paid by the church for the work done, according to a set rate. But, even as this is being explained, it is easy to understand that all the spiritually weak must do is remain spiritually weak, to stop the church. Once Christians refuse to mature spiritually, the right is defeated. The rate and magnitude of the defeat rests on the scale of the immaturity, but defeat is inevitable once Christians have ceased to embrace maturity.